You promise yourself you will stay calm, yet anger erupts before you know it. You swear you have moved on, yet jealousy burns at the smallest trigger. These moments feel alien, as if another self is living inside you, surfacing without permission. The shadow shows itself in these outbursts. It is the voice you deny, the impulse you reject, the thought you wish you never had. You try to bury it, but it keeps returning, demanding attention through conflict, contradiction, and emotions that feel stronger than reason. This conflict is not proof that you are broken. It is evidence that unacknowledged parts of you are trying to be seen. Until you face them, they will continue to leak into your life. Jung called this the shadow, and he believed meeting it was the path to wholeness. The easiest place to see the shadow is in how you judge others. You may notice dishonesty, arrogance, or selfishness and feel a surge of irritation. Often what provokes you most strongly is a mirror of something you deny within yourself. This is projection at work. Jung explained that projection is the unconscious mind's way of avoiding responsibility. By placing unwanted traits onto others, you protect your self-image but distort reality. The more you refuse to own your shadow, the more you meet it everywhere in the people around you. Think about the patterns in your relationships. Do you repeatedly attract the same type of conflict? Do certain behaviors in others enrage you beyond reason? These are signs of projection. Until you recognize the shadow within, you will continue to battle it in others. Jung believed that the parts of you hidden in the shadow are not meant to be destroyed, but reclaimed. When you integrate them, you stop living in conflict with yourself. Energy once spent on denial becomes available for creativity, clarity, and authentic expression. Integration does not mean acting out every impulse. It means bringing unconscious traits into awareness, so they no longer control you in secret. What once appeared as anger, envy, or fear can be understood as signals, guiding you toward growth instead of sabotaging your life. The promise of shadow work is wholeness. Instead of dividing yourself into acceptable and unacceptable parts, you live as one complete person. This transformation strengthens your relationships, your sense of identity, and your ability to live with purpose. The shadow becomes your greatest ally. Jung defined the shadow as the collection of traits, desires, and impulses we reject in ourselves. These aspects are pushed out of awareness because they conflict with our self-image or with what society considers acceptable. Yet they remain active, influencing behavior from the unconscious. The shadow is not inherently evil. It contains both dark impulses and undeveloped strengths. For example, suppressed anger might hide courage, and denied envy might conceal ambition. By ignoring these parts, we lose access to valuable energy that could enrich our lives if integrated. Jung emphasized that every human being has a shadow. It is a universal structure of the psyche, not a flaw in certain individuals. To become whole, each person must face and integrate their shadow. Without this process, personal growth remains incomplete and inner conflict persists. The shadow begins forming in childhood. As you learn what behaviors bring approval and which invite rejection, you start hiding parts of yourself. A child who is told not to be angry may push that anger down. A child criticized for being loud may silence their natural vitality. These rejected traits do not vanish. They slip beneath the surface of awareness, where they continue to live in the unconscious. Over time, the collection of denied impulses and feelings grows into the shadow. It is created not by malice, but by the need to belong and survive. Society reinforces this process. Schools, workplaces, and communities reward conformity. To fit in, you present a polished version of yourself and bury whatever contradicts it. The shadow is the price of acceptance, yet it also holds the authenticity you lose along the way. When you deny the shadow, it does not disappear. It grows stronger in secrecy, influencing your choices without consent. Suppressed emotions erupt in moments of stress, leaving you wondering why you overreacted. Unacknowledged desires sabotage goals because they demand expression in indirect ways. Denial also fragments identity. You present only the traits you accept while hiding the rest. Over time, the split becomes exhausting. Relationships suffer because others sense the parts of you you refuse to admit. Authentic intimacy is impossible when half of yourself is kept in the dark. Perhaps the greatest cost is projection. The traits you disown reappear in others, provoking judgment and conflict. By refusing to see your shadow within, you meet it endlessly outside. Until integration begins, the shadow controls your life more than your conscious choices ever will. The shadow shows itself most clearly in relationships. A partner's habits may trigger rage that feels larger than the situation. A friend's success may spark envy that you cannot admit. These reactions reveal disowned parts of yourself being reflected back through the people closest to you. Conflict often intensifies when shadow material is at play. Instead of addressing the real issue, arguments spiral into exaggerated emotions. You may feel betrayed, misunderstood, or unfairly treated, when in reality the shadow is fueling the intensity. Relationships become battlegrounds where hidden selves collide. Jung noted that intimacy always exposes the shadow. The closer the bond, the more opportunity for projection. While painful, this is also an invitation. If you can recognize the shadow at work, relationships become not just sources of conflict, but powerful arenas for self-discovery and integration. Your strongest judgments of others often reveal what you resist in yourself. When arrogance, selfishness, or dishonesty triggers intense anger, the shadow is speaking. These reactions rarely come from the behavior alone. They are fueled by denied traits that you unconsciously project outward. Projection is the shadow's disguise. By placing unwanted qualities onto others, you preserve your self-image but distort reality. This creates recurring patterns. You may label colleagues as manipulative, friends as untrustworthy, or strangers as arrogant, when in truth you are meeting disowned parts of yourself. Jung taught that noticing projections is the fastest way to meet the shadow. Ask yourself, why does this quality disturb me so deeply? The answer often points back within. Each judgment, when examined honestly, becomes a mirror. Through it, you discover what your conscious mind refuses to see. The shadow often reveals itself through recurring patterns that seem impossible to escape. You may find yourself in the same arguments with different people, facing similar disappointments in work, or repeating cycles of self-sabotage despite promising change. These struggles are not random coincidence. They are signals of what remains unintegrated. Until the shadow is faced, it will recreate situations that force you to encounter what you resist. The same frustration returns again and again, wearing a new face each time until you recognize the deeper truth hidden beneath it. Jung described this repetition as fate. What is not brought to consciousness reappears as destiny. The cycle continues not to punish you but to invite you. Each repeated struggle is a chance to meet the shadow directly, integrate it, and finally step into greater freedom. When the shadow is ignored, projection becomes constant. You see in others what you cannot face in yourself, and reality becomes distorted by your unacknowledged traits. Instead of meeting people as they are, you meet them as screens onto which you cast your hidden qualities. This distortion damages relationships. Friends and partners feel misjudged, accused of intentions they never held. At work, you may distrust colleagues without reason or clash with authority figures because they embody something unresolved in your psyche. What appears to be external conflict is often an inner battle. Living through projection also blinds you to your own growth. Qualities you could develop remain unseen because you insist they belong only to others. Until you claim them, you remain incomplete, chasing distorted images while the shadow quietly shapes your life from the background. When the shadow is denied, emotions do not disappear. They sink beneath awareness and gather pressure. Anger becomes a quiet resentment. Sadness hardens into numbness. Fear hides behind control. Over time, the repression strains the psyche until it cracks, often in ways that feel unpredictable. Breakdowns may appear as sudden outbursts, depression, or exhaustion that no amount of rest can cure. These episodes are not random weakness. They are the psyche's attempt to release what has been buried for too long. The more forcefully feelings are repressed, the more violently they return. Jung believed that repression is one of the greatest dangers to the human spirit. It creates a false sense of control while secretly corroding the foundation of the self. Facing the shadow directly prevents this collapse, allowing energy to flow into growth rather than destruction. When the shadow is ignored, life becomes a performance. You present a version of yourself that seems acceptable while concealing the traits you reject. This constant separation between outer image and inner truth creates tension, leaving you drained and uncertain about who you really are. The divided life is exhausting. Each role demands energy to maintain, and every mask distances you further from authenticity. Over time, you may feel fragmented, as if pieces of your identity are scattered in different directions. The cost of hiding is a loss of wholeness. Jung warned that such division prevents individuation, the process of becoming your true self. As long as parts of you remain exiled in the shadow, you cannot live fully. Integration is not optional. It is essential if you wish to replace fragmentation with authenticity and unity. The first step of shadow integration is recognition. You must notice the moments when your reactions feel too strong for the situation. These are signals that shadow material is surfacing. Anger, envy, shame, or fear often point directly to disowned parts waiting to be acknowledged. Awareness means slowing down enough to ask, what part of me is being revealed here? Instead of blaming others or suppressing the feeling, you turn inward. By naming the emotion honestly, you reduce its power. What was once an unconscious force begins to enter the light of consciousness. This stage requires honesty and humility. It is uncomfortable to admit qualities you dislike in yourself, yet recognition is liberation. The moment you can say this belongs to me, the shadow loses its grip. What once controlled you in secret becomes material you can finally work with. Once you recognize shadow qualities, the next step is ownership. Instead of denying anger, envy, or pride, you accept that these traits live within you. Ownership does not mean indulgence. It means acknowledging that you are human, carrying the full range of emotions and impulses. When you own disowned traits, you take back control. Qualities that once erupted unconsciously can now be expressed with awareness. Anger can fuel courage. Envy can inspire growth. Pride can strengthen confidence. What was destructive in the shadows becomes constructive in the light. Ownership is an act of responsibility. It ends the cycle of projection and blame. By saying, yes, this belongs to me, you stop fighting yourself and begin integrating. The energy once wasted on denial transforms into clarity, authenticity, and the freedom to live more fully. Jung believed dreams are the language of the unconscious, offering direct contact with the shadow. Images that disturb or confuse you often represent disowned parts of yourself. By exploring these symbols, you uncover truths that the conscious mind resists, but the deeper psyche insists on showing. Keeping a dream journal is one of the simplest practices. Write down images, emotions, and recurring figures as soon as you wake. Over time, patterns emerge. A threatening figure may symbolize your denied anger. A hidden room may point to unexplored potential. Each dream is a doorway to integration. Symbols also appear in art, stories, and everyday encounters. Pay attention to what fascinates or unsettles you. These moments carry shadow messages. By engaging with symbols instead of dismissing them, you open communication with the unconscious and begin transforming hidden content into conscious awareness. Jung developed methods to create direct communication with the unconscious, one of which he called active imagination. In this practice, you allow an image, feeling, or dream figure to unfold in your mind, and you enter into dialogue with it. This process reveals hidden meanings and unmet needs. Through such inner conversations, the shadow takes form as a voice or character. Instead of being a vague pressure, it becomes something you can listen to and understand. These dialogues often uncover motivations behind impulses and show how disowned traits can serve constructive purposes. The goal is not to control or silence the shadow, but to build relationship with it. By speaking with your unconscious rather than suppressing it, you integrate its wisdom. This dialogue turns conflict into collaboration, allowing your whole psyche to work together toward growth and balance. Integration is not complete until it shows in the way you live. Recognizing and owning the shadow must translate into choices and actions. When anger arises, instead of suppressing it or exploding, you channel it into clear boundaries. When envy appears, you use it as motivation to grow. Each moment of awareness becomes practice. You notice your projections in conversations and take responsibility rather than blaming. You allow yourself to express emotions honestly but respectfully. These small shifts gradually reshape your life, proving that shadow work is not theory but lived transformation. Over time, integration creates authenticity. People experience you as whole rather than fragmented, and you feel less drained because you are no longer at war with yourself. By bringing shadow into daily behavior, you close the gap between who you pretend to be and who you truly are. Writing is one of the most effective tools for shadow integration. Journaling allows unconscious material to surface without judgment. Begin by recording your strongest emotional reactions each day. Ask yourself what quality in the situation disturbed you most, and whether that trait also lives in you. Prompts can guide the process. What do I criticize most in others? When do I feel ashamed of myself? What do I fear people would think if they knew the real me? Answering these questions honestly reveals patterns and gives shape to the shadow you usually avoid. Reflection deepens the work. After writing, reread what you have captured and highlight recurring themes. These are signals of unresolved material waiting to be integrated. By confronting them on paper, you bring unconscious truths into awareness, making them easier to accept and eventually transform. Mirror work is a simple yet powerful practice. Stand before a mirror and look into your own eyes while speaking honestly about what you reject in yourself. This direct encounter often brings discomfort, but it breaks the habit of hiding and helps you face the shadow without disguise. Projection tracking is another method. Each time you feel strong judgment towards someone, write down exactly what bothered you. Later, ask yourself whether that same quality appears in your own life. By tracing patterns in your projections, you uncover the traits you have denied and begin reclaiming them. These practices cultivate honesty. Instead of running from uncomfortable truths, you confront them with clarity. The mirror reveals what you cannot escape, and tracking projections turns irritation into insight. Over time, both methods train you to recognize the shadow quickly and integrate it consciously. Creativity provides a safe outlet for shadow material. Painting, writing stories, dancing, or making music allows feelings too intense for words to find release. In art, you can give form to rage, fear, or longing without harm. What was hidden becomes visible, and visibility begins transformation. Embodiment practices work in a similar way. Movement, breathwork, or even martial arts help release shadow energy stored in the body. By allowing the body to express what the mind represses, you prevent emotions from festering and give them a constructive channel. These practices bypass rational filters. Instead of analyzing your feelings endlessly, you let them flow through color, rhythm, or movement. Each active expression lightens the unconscious load. Over time, the shadow shifts from a force of chaos into a resource for creativity and vitality. When you integrate the shadow, you no longer need to hide behind masks. The qualities you once rejected are acknowledged and brought into balance. This creates a sense of authenticity because who you show to the world finally matches who you truly are inside. Wholeness follows authenticity. Instead of feeling fragmented, you experience yourself as one complete being. Conflicting voices within you begin to cooperate rather than compete. This harmony does not erase difficulty, but allows you to move through life with steadiness, rooted in self-acceptance. Jung taught that individuation, the process of becoming whole, depends on shadow integration. Without it, growth is limited and identity remains incomplete. With it, you gain access to energy, confidence, and freedom that were locked away. Wholeness makes you more human, not less. Shadow integration transforms the way you relate to others. When you stop projecting denied traits, you see people more clearly. Instead of blaming them for qualities you hide in yourself, you take responsibility. This clarity reduces unnecessary conflict and opens space for genuine understanding. Relationships also become more balanced. You no longer expect others to carry the weight of your unacknowledged emotions. By owning your shadow, you bring honesty and accountability to every connection. This makes intimacy safer, because both people can trust that what is expressed is real. The result is deeper connection. Partners, friends, and colleagues feel less judged and more accepted. By integrating your shadow, you create room for their imperfections as well as your own. Relationships thrive not through perfection, but through the authenticity that comes when shadows are faced together. The shadow contains not only traits you fear, but also gifts you have buried. When integrated, this hidden energy fuels creativity. Suppressed anger becomes drive, denied envy becomes ambition, and disowned desire becomes inspiration. What once felt dangerous transforms into a source of originality and expression. Freedom comes from no longer living in fear of yourself. You stop wasting energy on suppression and self-denial. Instead, that energy flows into new ideas, meaningful projects, and courageous choices. Creativity expands because the unconscious is no longer locked away, but working with you. Jung believed that true freedom arises when the whole psyche is included. By welcoming the shadow, you break the chains of repression and open the door to possibility. You live less as a prisoner of habit and more as a creator, shaping life with authenticity and imagination. The shadow is often misunderstood as something dark or dangerous, but Jung taught that it is not evil. It is simply the part of you that has been hidden from consciousness. Within it lie impulses that can be destructive if denied, but transformative if embraced with awareness. To fear the shadow is to fear your own humanity. Every person carries traits they would rather not admit. Accepting this truth brings humility and compassion. By recognizing that the shadow is natural, you release the shame that keeps you fragmented and begin moving toward wholeness. When you stop seeing the shadow as an enemy, you discover its gifts. The energy trapped in denial becomes available for growth. Anger becomes courage, envy becomes ambition, and fear becomes wisdom. The shadow, once faced, proves to be not a curse but a source of life. You are not alone in this work. Across the world, others are confronting their hidden selves, learning to integrate what they once denied. By declaring, "I face my shadow," you join a community of people committed to authenticity, depth, and the courage to be whole. Write these words in the comments or share them openly as your statement of intention. Each declaration strengthens the signal that you are part of something larger than yourself. Together, these voices form a collective movement, proving that transformation is not only personal, but universal. This tribe is built not on perfection, but on honesty. By admitting that you are facing your shadow, you give others permission to do the same. The courage of one person inspires another, and slowly a network of truth-tellers grows, united by the work of integration. The longer the shadow is ignored, the stronger it becomes. Every day of denial allows it to shape your life in hidden ways. Patterns repeat, conflicts intensify, and opportunities slip away. Waiting does not make the shadow weaker. Only conscious work can transform its power. Beginning now prevents years of unnecessary struggle. Each small act of awareness brings relief. Each moment of honesty reclaims energy. The sooner you start, the faster you replace cycles of projection and repression with clarity and freedom. Transformation begins the moment you choose to face yourself. Do not postpone this work for another season of life. The cost of delay is too high, and the reward of integration is too great. Start today with a single act of recognition, and you set in motion the process that leads to authenticity and wholeness. The shadow is not your enemy. It is the missing piece that makes you whole. By turning toward it with courage, you reclaim the parts of yourself you once abandoned. Every moment of honesty strengthens you. Every act of integration brings more freedom, creativity, and authenticity. You are not broken because you struggle with hidden impulses. You are human, and within that humanity lies immense power. The shadow is proof that you have more depth than you realized. Once embraced, it becomes the fuel that drives you to live a fuller and more meaningful life. Step into this work with hope. Know that what once frightened you will become your greatest ally. The path is not easy, but it is transformative. By facing your shadow, you open the door to your truest self, and from that wholeness you can finally live free.